What is going on, guys? My name is Stuber, and I'm here to break down this 10-game NBA slate on Draftkings and PrizePicks.com. If you guys are new here, welcome. If you guys are a returning viewer, welcome back. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Likes and comments are also greatly appreciated. I do live stream an hour before every single lock. So at 5 p.m. Central Time, I will be here breaking down all of the latest breaking news in the NBA, as well as answering as many questions as I possibly can up until lock. And if you're subbing to this channel, you're getting videos, live streams every single day, completely free to hit that sub button, the #1 way of supporting me. If you guys want to join my free Discord as well, that is linked down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Over 1,500 members in there chopping it up every single day. Whenever news breaks, somebody is posting it in there and we are breaking it down. If you guys want to know exactly what I'm doing on FanDuel, Draftkings, and PrizePicks.com, you guys can join my Patreon. That is $25 a month. That is linked down below. I think it's a pretty damn good deal. My game notes alone take me hours on hours to get done, and you guys can view that every single morning, and that is updated throughout the day. List the depth charts, the injuries, all the news that has come out during the day, as well as the players I'm considering for every single day, or every single game rather. But let's just jump right into the slate. So we will start with the Charlotte Hornets versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. So Terry Rozier is still questionable. He missed last game, and Kelly Oubre ended up starting in his place. All of these starters for the Hornets ended up playing 32 plus minutes, except LaMelo Ball. They were getting thrashed pretty good in the second half. LaMelo exited the game. And then he didn't come back in until the very end of the game, just because the backup squad plus the rest of the starters went on a run to get them back into the game, and so that cut into LaMelo's minutes. He only played 28, but on a normal basis, it looks like he's going to play around 32 minutes. Obviously, a much better player with Terry Rozier off the court. If you look at the rates last year, LaMelo's rates don't move all that much with Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier off the court, but this is his second year in the league, and these are where he's going to make his biggest improvements. So I'm not looking into those stats all that much. If Terry Rozier is out again, I think LaMelo is squarely in play against this Cleveland Cavaliers team. And then Kelly Oubre at $5,500. I'm expecting to grab another spot start and play 32 plus minutes against a poor defense. I think he would be viable as well. As far as the other guys, I think they're priced pretty appropriately. I think Mason Plumlee at $6,500. I can't really get there, but it is promising to see that Mason Plumlee is going to play 30 plus minutes, because we do know how good of a permanent producer he is. I just wish that he was a bit cheaper. It just seems like this team is priced fairly appropriately. Move over to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are going to be without Dylan Windler. Darius Garland is questionable. That Garland injury is something we are going to have to monitor throughout the day. Luckily, this is the first game of the entire slate, so we should get this news well ahead of time, maybe after shoot around. If he is ruled out, Ricky Rubio is his direct backup, and he would be probably the best play on the entire slate at $5,300. Very, very high permanent producer. One of the highest scoring players on this team just last game. That was him coming off the bench and playing low 20s minutes. But they only ran a 9-man rotation, which is something we saw in the preseason, and it's good to see that it's happening again in the regular season. Evan Mobley played a team high 38 minutes. He's only 6.9K. I think that's priced pretty appropriately. But the rest of the starters played low 30s minutes, and Mobley's out here playing 38 minutes a game. The starting lineup of this team is pretty funny. They are playing Lauri Markkanen, who has played at the 5 for a large majority of his career. He is starting at the 3 with Mobley at the 4 and Jarrett Allen at the 5. That makes Lauri Markkanen playable at $5,200 regardless of the Darius Garland injury, just because he has the option of playing 3 positions now instead of just 2, the 4 and the 5. So I don't mind him at $5,200, but overall on this team, if Garland is ruled out, I think Ricky Rubio is one of the best plays on the slate. I think Mobley, more of a secondary play, but the minutes are very, very stable, I think. And then Lauri Markkanen at $5,200, I think is a pretty strong play as well. move over to the Indiana Pacers versus the Washington Wizards. One of the more enticing games on the slate. The Pacers are going to be without TJ Warren, Karis LeVert, and Keelan Martin. And then Jeremy Lamb, Torrey Craig, and Justin Holiday popped up on the injury report yesterday as questionable. So they ran an 8-man rotation last game, and that was with all 3 of those questionable players playing. So if they are ruled out, the minutes are going to be even tighter than they already are for the starters. So guys like Sabonis, Brogdon, Chris Duarte, their minutes are going to become very, very secure. Funny enough, Sabonis at the end of the game, I think the Miles Turner Sabonis thing just like is a failed experiment. I don't think it works very well. Maybe they agree with that this year, because Sabonis ended up closing out the game at the 5, and it was pretty much the entire half where he was out there playing center with no Miles Turner on the court. Sabonis is an amazing play. Played 39 minutes last time out. Malcolm Brogdon played 40 minutes. Chris Duarte played 33 minutes, and that was with Jeremy Lamb and Holiday playing, and Torrey Craig as well, all stealing minutes from behind him, although Justin Holiday does start. So yeah, I mean, if those guys are out, I think Chris Duarte is still viable at $6,000. I mean, they brought up his price a ton. I think people are going to flock to him, and if his ownership gets really, really high, I'm probably going to avoid him even with these other guys out. But I'm really focusing up top with Domantas Sabonis at $9,000 against a weak Washington front court, undersized front court with Daniel Gafford and Montrezl Harrell. I think he should be able to do literally whatever he wants in this game. And as long as it's competitive, I said it before last video, he's going to play around 38-40 minutes just like he did last time out. So really focusing on Sabonis. And if we get some more injuries, we can kind of break it down in the Discord later. But yeah, I mean, TJ McConnell is a bit too expensive for that. Move over to the Washington Wizards. They're going to be without Thomas Bryant, Rui Hachimura, Cassius Winston, and then Bradley Beal is questionable. Ended up popping up on the injury report. If he does, if he plays, doesn't play, I think these Wizards are too cheap. With Kyle Kuzma, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Montrezl Harrell, Daniel Gafford, I think they're all too cheap. If Beal does miss this game, then they get substantial boost. We know last year without Russell Westbrook on the court, Bradley Beal had a 40% usage rating. He had a similar usage rating in game 1. So if he does indeed miss this game, I'm going to be all over Kyle Kuzma, Spencer Dinwiddie specifically, and then Montrezl Harrell and Daniel Gafford, as expected last game, split all 48 center minutes pretty evenly. But they are such good per minute producers that it's easy for them to pay off their price tags in 22-24 minutes. Because if you go back to last year, anytime Montrezl Harrell was allowed the opportunity to play 22-24 minutes, we were playing him up to like 6K. So you actually get him at a slight discount here, and Indiana Pacers aren't the most imposing defense either. Move over to the New York Knicks versus the Orlando Magic. The Knicks are going to be without Nerlens Noel again. Taj Gibson is questionable. He ended up missing that last game. Mitchell Robinson ended up playing 34 minutes, but that game did go into double overtime. But he didn't really play in double overtime. They ended up closing with Julius Randle at the 5, with Obi Toppin at the 4, and that looks like what they want to be doing. Their offensive rating goes through the roof in the limited sample size that they got in the preseason and then last game where they tried it out in the regular season, when the game really mattered. Julius Randle at the 5 and Obi Toppin at the 4 works out very, very well in terms of offense. But when you're looking at the minutes, remember, it was a double overtime game, so the minutes are very, very skewed. But Julius Randle, again, $8,500. Don't understand this price tag. Him and Domantas Sabonis are probably the best point per dollar studs on the entire slate, or at least they're up there in the top 3 or 4. You can definitely get away with playing both of them. And it looks like a night where you want to play a couple of these studs in that 8K range, and then you want to get some of the guys in the 6K range. There's not really all that much value as of right now. Again, it's a 10-game slate, and we have plenty of time until lock, so a lot is going to end up changing. But yeah, from this team, I'm really just focusing on Julius Randle. RJ Barrett should play big minutes like he always does. He is 5.8K. Don't mind him either, but really focusing on Julius Randle up top. The Orlando Magic are going to be without Michael Carter-Williams, Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Chuma Okeke, Etuan Moore, and Gary Harris. So they are very, very thin, especially in the backcourt. Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Bamba ended up starting next to each other, and that only secures their minutes. I think it kind of I don't know how it works offensively. Mo Bamba was hitting his threes yesterday, so the spacing wasn't as bad. But, on a normal basis, I don't know how this works in the long run. And then Jalen Suggs, he started, played 30 minutes, the second highest usage among the starters, and at 23.8%, and is only $4,000 at point guard and shooting guard eligibility. And $4,000. I think he is one of the better value plays on the slate. And actually on Prize Picks, his over under, his points prop is at 11.5. I like the over on this. He was not shooting well last game, and he could have easily hit the over in this game. And I'm expecting him to play 30 plus minutes again, and he actually lost a few minutes due to that blowout run. So like the over on Jalen Suggs over on Prize Picks. Move over to the Brooklyn Nets versus the Philadelphia 76ers. The Nets are going to be without, obviously, Kyrie Irving, but outside of that, the team is relatively healthy. We got a different kind of starting lineup last time out. We have to see what the starting lineup ends up being, because I think that's very indicative of what they want to do in this specific game. Claxton ended up getting the start at the 5 with Blake Griffin at the 4. And then Bruce Brown, who was getting these starts in the playoffs last year, was pretty much a DNP until the game ended up blowing out, and he got some blowout run at the end. I know a lot of people bit the bullet with that, and it wasn't us, but I know a lot of people got burned by Bruce Brown. If he's not starting, I would not expect him to play all that much. If Claxton is starting at $3,800, I think he's definitely viable. And then James Harden, Kevin Durant, I think are two of the better spend-up options on the entire slate. Should play big minutes. This matchup isn't as imposing with no Ben Simmons on the other side for Philadelphia. I do prefer James Harden to Kevin Durant, although Kevin Durant last game had a 40% usage rating, and that was with him playing next to James Harden a lot. Both these guys ended up losing minutes last game to blowout. I think that they play 35, 36 minutes on a normal scenario. Moving to the 76ers. They're going to be without Ben Simmons, Shake Milton, Grant Riller. Joel Embiid is actually questionable, and it looks like he bumped knees with Josh Hart last game, and that is why he is on the injury report. If he was to miss, Andre Drummond would grab the start and be one of the best, if not the best play on the entire slate at $5,500. I hope that doesn't happen, because it makes the slate very, very chalky. Everybody going the same route. But I do think there's a good chance Joel Embiid ends up playing this game. If he does miss this game, it's going to be Andre Drummond. Tobias Harris gets a bump. But Tyrese Maxey, we're going to continue to see no Ben Simmons, Shake Milton, or Grant Riller. So the front court is very, very thin. And Tyrese Maxey is still only $5,300. Average 1.07 fantasy points per minute with no Ben Simmons and Shake Milton on the court last year. Played very well in this first game. And he lost some minutes to the blowout run as well. So if he ends up playing in a competitive game against the Brooklyn Nets, who are one of the worst defenses and fastest teams in the league, he should play 33, 34 minutes in a very good game environment. And $5,300 is probably entirely too cheap for Tyrese Maxey. Move over to the Toronto Raptors versus the Boston Celtics. The Raptors, one of my favorite teams on the slate. No Pascal Siakam, no Yuta Watanabe. This game was out of hand for the majority of the game, and so that really cut into the minutes of these Toronto starters. We go back to years past with Nick Nurse. They played their guys, specifically Fred VanVleet, big minutes in competitive games. If you think this game is going to be competitive, you're going to want to have some of these Raptors, specifically the top two price guys. It looks like Scotty Barnes, he picked up his third foul with 5 minutes and 18 seconds left in that first half and didn't return until the second half. But he still ended up playing 32 minutes, and he is only $4,500. So it looks like they are planning on playing this guy like 36, 37, 38 minutes in these games. Not the best matchup, but if he's going to play that much, I like Scotty Barnes as a value today. And then Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby, I love both these guys. They shot a collective 8 for 37 in that first game. But we know where these shots are coming from for this team. All of the shots came from Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby. And once they start hitting these shots, they are going to be very, very good plays. OG Anunoby on FanDuel scored over 30 fantasy points despite shooting 3 for 17 and having a plethora of turnovers. So once these shots start falling for these guys, they are going to absolutely destroy these price tags. They are both way too cheap. Go back to last year without Kyle Lowry and Pascal Siakam on on the court. Fred VanVleet, a 31.4% usage rating, 32.3 assist percentage, while averaging 1.19 fantasy points per minute. And actually, those are two of my favorite plays on PrizePicks as well, hitting the over. You can actually pair it with Jalen Suggs. The over 17.5 and over 16.5 for OG Anunoby seems like two of my favorite plays on PrizePicks. I already slammed some of those. If you guys are part of the Patreon, you know I posted those already. But from the Toronto side, yeah, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, and Scotty Barnes should all be in play for very, very big minutes, and we know where the production is coming from on that team. The Boston Celtics, you know, Al Horford missed last game. He's questionable now, but they are going to return Marcus Smart, Josh Richardson, and Al Horford is probably going to end up playing this game. So returning three of the guys that ended up missing last game does not bode well for anybody on this team, and it seems like they are priced appropriately, especially if these guys are going to be returning. Not really interested in any of those Boston Celtics guys. Move over to the New Orleans Pelicans versus the Chicago Bulls. The Pelicans are going to be without Zion Williamson again. Josh Hart is questionable. I did mention earlier that he bumped knees with Joel Embiid, exited that game early last time out. Questionable for this game. The game blew out last time, and so they missed out on 4 minutes. But Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker garnered all of the usage and were set to play massive minutes in that first game before the game ended up blowing out. You know, Brandon Ingram shot like 27 times in that first game. Jonas Valanciunas, $7,200. He shot 19 times and only made 3 shots. That's the kind of player I want to go back to. When I know he's going to shoot that much, and even when he's shooting poorly, he's just going to keep shooting. I want every bit of Jonas Valanciunas at 7,200. I think he's one of the better plays on the slate, and actually he's over/under prop on. So it actually ended up moving. So if you guys want a play from this video specifically, just a 2-pick that I've ended up posting in the Patreon, it would end up being Fred VanVleet over 17.5 real points and the Jonas Valanciunas over 15.5 real points. We ended up getting Jonas Valanciunas at 14.5 real points. If you tell me that Valanciunas is going to shoot 19 times again, I can almost assure you he's not going to score 9 points again off of those 19 shots. And that was a game where he was playing against Joel Embiid. You know, this is a much easier matchup in Nikola Vucevic in the front court. So from this Pelicans team, I think Brandon Ingram is in play. Jonas Valanciunas, Nickeil Alexander also in play. Nickeil Alexander-Walker not as much as the first two guys. Over to the Chicago Bulls. They're going to be without Kobe White. They ran a very, very tight rotation like we expected. So it's pretty much the starters plus Alex Caruso off the bench playing all of the minutes for the Chicago Bulls team. Patrick Williams is only $4,100. He was limited last game after coming off an injury. Still played 28 minutes, and I think moving forward, he's probably going to play, you know, low to mid 30s in minutes. Could be this game. We did get confirmation before that last game that he was going to be limited, so maybe we get information today that he is off that limit and he plays 34 minutes. Even if he plays around 30 minutes, I think he's viable at 4,100. Not the best per minute producer. Alex Caruso in a similar situation where he will probably play 26, 28, 30 minutes at times. At 4,200, I think he's fine. But, you know, they're all in play. Levine, Vucevic, DeRozan, Ball at their current prices. But more secondary plays for me. Nobody I'm going out of my way to end up targeting. Move over to the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Houston Rockets. You know, probably the most enticing game from all aspects. The over-under isn't that high, but they play zero defense on both sides of this game, and especially the Houston Rockets should be very, very fast. A very fast pace-up game for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 6,700 is one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. You know, whenever he gets the opportunity to play in a game that is supposed to be competitive, like Vegas indicates this game should be, you want to be all over him because this this Oklahoma City team just lacks offensive talent, and so Shai Gilgeous-Alexander really just carries the load in terms of usage, assist percentage, and this is a pace-up game where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should get his full allotment of minutes somewhere in that 32-34 minute range, and he's priced down to $6,700. I think that is just way too cheap for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Darius Bazley, Lou Dort should all be set to play 30-32 minutes in these games. And it is worth mentioning that they play throughout the blowouts for the most part. on this Oklahoma City team. And then Josh Giddey off the bench, or is getting the starts at $4,100. You know, his usage is very, very low. When he really shines is when he's on the court facilitating the offense. And with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander healthy, he's not doing that all that much. But at the very end of their last game against the Jazz, when the game blew out, you know, they played the starters till the end for the most part, until like the last 3 minutes. And Josh Giddey stayed out there. So if this game blows out for whatever reason, Josh Giddey's going to be out there on the court regardless. So it's safe to assume that he's going to play around 30 minutes each and every game. But yeah, it's not often that OKC has a team that they can be competitive with. But this Houston Rockets team is perfect for that. So I'm really, really targeting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If you want some other plays from this team, I mean, it's probably Darius Bazley at 6,000, maybe Lou Dort at 5,100. Their minutes are the most secure on the team outside of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey. Move over to the Houston Rockets side. John Wall is obviously out. Daniel House and Garrison Matthews are questionable. So yeah, last game blew out and the starters missed pretty much all of the entire fourth quarter. So they were set to play big minutes. Like Christian Wood and Jalen Green were on pace to play 38-40 minutes in this game. And they are very, very inexpensive for what they can do on this team. Christian Wood only 7,100. That seems pretty close, like a lock for me. Jalen Green only 4,800. Again, he was on pace to play 38-40 minutes in this game. I believe he shot 4 for 14. So the opportunities were there. He just didn't shoot well at all. He did end up picking up 4 rebounds, 4 assists, which is promising for him, knowing that he's picking up peripheral stats outside of his shooting. He ended up putting up a decent game last time out. Now he gets a much better matchup against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then Kevin Porter Jr., he had a 35.7% usage rating last game and managed to put up like mid-teens numbers. It was pretty bad from Kevin Porter Jr., but the opportunities are obviously there. Should play low to mid 30s in minutes. So I'm going to go back to the well with some of Kevin Porter Jr. I think him, Wood, and Jalen Green are the best plays on this entire slate. And then Daniel House, I think he probably returns in this game, and that could bump Jae'Sean Tate to the bench or just eat into Jae'Sean Tate's minutes. And Jae'Sean Tate has a over/under player prop or point prop at 9.5. I hit the under on that already on Prize Picks. Move over to the San Antonio Spurs versus the Denver Nuggets. The Spurs are going to be without Zach Collins, Devontae Cacok. You know, Devontae Cacok is just getting bounced around the team. In-game showdown legend. Shout out Devontae Cacok. But yeah, the first game blew out, so starters missed ample playing time. Outside of Doug McDermott, the starters were on pace to play over 30 minutes. So DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Jakob Poeltl, Keldon Johnson, I think are fine plays. I think they're like, I'm considering them in my lineup. Like if I have just enough money and I need a last guy in, yeah, I think Keldon Johnson, Poeltl, Derek White, DeJounte Murray are all good plays in their own right. But I think, you know, they're more of secondary plays for me. The matchup isn't the best. But you know, if you like them on this slate, yeah, I think go ahead and play them. I think that the rotation is pretty tight with the starters from the Spurs. Move over to the Denver Nuggets. Jamal Murray is out. Blacko Kankar is questionable. Yeah, so Jokic up top, I mean, is obviously a great play. Go back to last year with no Jamal Murray. Averaged 1.64 fantasy points per minute. We saw a bit of that in game 1. Michael Porter Jr. without Jamal Murray on the court, 1.08 fantasy points per minute. A lot of the time, their minutes were staggered, but, you know, it was weird that at some points in the last game, they had lineups out there with no Jokic or Michael Porter Jr. That was a pretty bold move, in my opinion. It looks like Bones Highland is out of the rotation as of right now. Austin Rivers playing ahead of him. And then, yeah, so from this team, I'm really just focusing on Nikola Jokic, Michael Porter Jr., but not like guys I'm going out of my way to target. 2 games left. The Phoenix Suns versus the Los Angeles Lakers. The Phoenix Suns are pretty healthy, only missing Dario Saric on their team. Seems like Jay Crowder is losing ground to Cameron Johnson, losing playing time to him. Their minutes were pretty even last time out. They actually closed with Cam Johnson in the first half over Jay Crowder. So, you know, Cam Johnson, he likes to shoot when he's out there on the court. So if he continues to eat into Jay Crowder's minutes, that is something to monitor going forward just because he is so affordable. And then I just want to, this was a pretty funny stat. Cameron Johnson had a 39.1% usage rating off the bench. He's only $3,600. But we know that's going to happen with the rotations. Chris Paul usually exits the first and third quarters halfway through. Campaign comes in, kind of runs things next to Devin Booker at $3,600. So you could definitely do worse than Campaign down there. And then Mikal Bridges played 33.5 minutes. He's only $5,000. But I think this team is relatively priced appropriately. I think Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton are fine plays at the 7.3 and 6.7K price tags. The Los Angeles Lakers, they're going to be without Trevor Ariza, Talon Horton-Tucker, Wayne Ellington, Kendrick Nunn, and then Sekou Doumbouya is questionable. The Lakers will continue to start and play their traditional centers just one stint in the first and second half, and giving the rest of the minutes at the 5 to Anthony Davis. So Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan not in play at all, and that is actually a boost to Anthony Davis. But yeah, after looking at last game, I'm pretty much expecting LeBron, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook to play 35 plus minutes each and every night. With Anthony Davis, he might play like 38 minutes a night in these competitive games. So I like him the most of these three studs. I would rank them Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook. And with Westbrook playing so timid last game, it just seems like there is an opportunity for LeBron and AD to be like, okay, Russ, just go and do your thing. Because, I don't think Russ should be on this team. It doesn't do them any favors. But if they want any chance of winning, I think Russell kind of has to do his thing out there. And then LeBron and AD have to shoot very, very well, to help the spacing on this team. And so I think Russell Westbrook, nobody's going to play Russ. Because his price didn't really move, and everybody saw on national TV how bad he was on this team. But yeah, I'm really focusing on AD and LeBron before Westbrook, but I think it's worth noting that Westbrook is going to be under-owned. And then Kent Bazemore, he played 30 minutes. He's $4,500. If Kendrick Nunn returns, I'm not going to be on Bazemore. And then Carmelo Anthony was the first guy off the bench, should continue to play mid-20s minutes with all of these bench pieces missing. Move over to the Utah Jazz versus the Sacramento Kings, the last game of the slate. The Jazz pretty healthy. No Rudy Gay in this game, though. The first game blew out, so the starters looked like they were about to play around 32 minutes. I think the top guys in Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell are priced appropriately, so I'm not really going to any of them. But Mike Conley, Bojan Bogdanovic, priced in the mid-range, should play around 32 minutes. Jordan Clarkson as well. I think that they should play pretty decent minutes and are priced affordably in a pace-up game against the Sacramento Kings. This game should be competitive, so if I'm targeting anybody from this team, it's probably Mike Conley, Bogdanovic, and then Jordan Clarkson off of the bench. Moving to the Sacramento Kings, they are healthy outside of Marvin Bagley no longer being in the rotation, at least for the foreseeable future. I don't think the front office has any plans for Marvin Bagley to be on this team, so they're just going to end up sitting him. And with them sitting him, that opens up minutes and secures minutes for the wings like Tyrese Halliburton, Harrison Barnes, Buddy Hield, Davion Mitchell. Now, they're much more affordable on FanDuel. Draftkings, they are just priced up, and they get this tough matchup against the Utah Jazz. Now, the minutes are going to be there, but the usage is going to be spread out. I know Harrison Barnes shot ungodly or crazy well in his last game. I don't think that continues, and he's $7,300. I think some people might end up chasing that. But from this team, I'm not really considering anybody, just given the matchup and how appropriately priced these guys are. But again, guys, I will be live streaming an hour before lock at 5 p.m. Central Time, so make sure to be there to get the latest breaking news. I'll break down all of these games and what news has happened throughout the day, because there's going to be a lot of news. There's 20 teams on the slate, so a lot of things are going to end up happening, and then I try to answer as many questions as I possibly can. If you guys want to join my Discord, that is completely free, linked down below. And make sure to give me a follow on Twitter as well. That's linked down below in the description and the pinned comment. But I appreciate you guys being here. Best of luck, and until next time, peace.